In the heart of the city, nestled between glass giants and echoing ambition, stands the Donovan Tower. Steel, power, and legacy all wrapped in one. At the top of this modern fortress, Rachel Donovan rules. Not metaphorically, literally. She's the CEO, daughter of the founder, and the type of leader who doesn't just break glass ceilings, she designs them. Every morning, she walks into the tower's café, a luxury joint that smells like ambition and overpriced espresso. She's sharp, always early, always poised. But this morning, she's juggling a call, her phone's dying, her assistant is late, and as she finally gets to the counter to order her usual oat milk latte, no foam, 2 shots of espresso, the barista delivers a blow she never expected. Your card was declined. Rachel blinks, confused, tries another card. Declined again. The room suddenly feels quieter, the kind of quiet where people pretend not to stare. She feels heat creeping up her neck, an unfamiliar feeling for someone who usually commands every room. She's about to say forget it when someone behind her steps forward. Not a hedge fund guy, not a VC, not some eager employee looking to impress. It's Caleb, the tower's security guard, the quiet one, the one who nods at everyone but never says much. He gently says to the barista, "I've got it. Just add her drink to mine." No grand gesture, no swagger, just kindness. Clean and simple. Rachel barely knows how to react. She mumbles a thank you. Caleb just nods again, barely meeting her eyes. That moment doesn't last more than 30 seconds, but it plants a seed that neither of them can ignore. Back in her office, the skyline stretching endlessly behind her, Rachel Donovan sifted through resumes like she had 100 times before. Confident, efficient, detached. The stakes were high. She was handpicking a team for a cutting-edge initiative that would redefine Donovan Tech's AI strategy. Only the sharpest minds would make the cut. Her eyes moved quickly across bullet points. MIT, Stanford, Google, Tesla, patent holder, founder, buzzwords galore. Every name came with polish and pedigree. And then, like a glitch in the algorithm, Caleb A. Mitchell appeared. At first, she didn't connect the name to the man from the cafe. It was just another document in a pile. She almost clicked discard, but something about the plainness of the resume, its lack of performance flair, its quiet confidence, made her pause. There was no flashy headline, no LinkedIn link, just experience, followed by a curious gap. 4 years of solid work in back-end systems engineering at a respected firm. 2 small-scale open-source projects that showed real ingenuity. And then, nothing. 18 months. Blank. Not even a vague attempt to fill the space with freelance consultant or independent research. Rachel leaned back in her chair. It was him, wasn't it? She checked the building's personnel directory. Security, night shift, same name, same face. The guy who quietly bought her coffee was once a systems engineer. She flagged the resume and picked up the phone. "Get me HR," she said, curiosity tightening her voice. When they answered, she didn't waste time. Why was Caleb Mitchell's application rejected? Gap in employment, they replied. He didn't meet the activity threshold we use to filter talent. A cold, mechanical reason. Exactly the kind she'd signed off on herself more than once. Rachel stared at the screen. He hadn't fit the formula, but he had shown up, helped, moved on. She thought about all the candidates who had never paused their careers, who had perfect graphs but shallow instincts. And then she thought about Caleb. His calm presence, his sincerity, his clear ability to read a room without trying to dominate it. She closed the window on the rejection system. "Call him in," she said. Caleb A. Mitchell didn't fit the mold of a typical applicant, and that's exactly what made him stand out. At first glance, his name on the resume looked like any other. No bold fonts, no gimmicks, no links to personal websites or QR-coded portfolios, but beneath the simplicity was a story quietly waiting to be heard. Caleb had once been a rising star in the AI sector, cutting his teeth at a mid-sized firm that specialized in predictive algorithms for urban planning. His code was efficient, his problem-solving precise, and his team had nothing but respect for his leadership. But then, without warning, he stepped away. Most recruiters saw that as a red flag. Rachel saw it as a conversation. During their one-on-one, Caleb explained what no algorithm could ever quantify. Life got complicated. His mother's diagnosis came suddenly and progressed aggressively. She needed full-time care, and as the only family she had left, Caleb didn't hesitate. He walked away from a 6-figure job, from climbing the ladder, from everything that said success on paper. He worked night shifts as a driver and eventually took the security job at Donovan Tower because it was quiet, stable, and close to the hospital. What struck Rachel wasn't just the sacrifice, it was the serenity with which he spoke about it. No bitterness, no self-pity, just facts and a quiet dignity. And yet, despite the years away from the industry, Caleb hadn't let go of his craft. He still coded in his off hours. He contributed to open source projects anonymously. He studied the latest AI papers like they were novels. He didn't do it for a job. He did it because he still believed in the technology. He still believed in its potential to make the world better, more accessible, more efficient, more human. Rachel saw in him a leader, not driven by ego or accolades, but by values. And in a company striving to create technology that would shape real human experiences, that mattered more than any title ever could. When Caleb sat down across from Rachel in the glass-paneled conference room, he didn't look nervous. He looked prepared. Not in the way candidates usually are, with buzzwords and elevator pitches, but like a man who'd already been through something far more demanding than any interview. Rachel didn't waste time. Your resume shows 5 years at Virion Systems, strong tenure, solid upward growth, then nothing for 3 years. She waited. No judgment in her voice, just curiosity. Caleb met her eyes directly. My mother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I was the only family she had left. There was a long pause, not awkward, just heavy with weight. He continued, I tried to juggle both, work and care, but eventually she needed full-time support. So I left the industry, sold the car, downsized, took a night shift job in building security because it gave me time during the day to be with her. No embellishments, no attempt to earn sympathy, just facts, and a quiet dignity in the way he spoke them. Rachel found herself caught off guard, not by the story, but by how much it said about his character. Tech resumes are usually stuffed with numbers, patents, certifications, but here was a man who listed none of that in his application. Instead, he carried his values in the silence between sentences. I didn't include it in the resume, Caleb added, because I didn't think anyone would care. That line hit her harder than she expected. Because that's exactly the kind of thing that gets filtered out by HR algorithms and resume scanners. Something deeply human. Something real. He didn't just know how to build systems, he knew how to hold them together when life falls apart. Rachel saw more than a candidate. She saw a leader who hadn't just faced pressure, he'd endured it without applause. And he did it with purpose. Caleb didn't stride into his new role with bold declarations or flashy presentations. He arrived early, stayed late, and spoke only when he had something meaningful to contribute. In a workplace fueled by performance metrics and boardroom theatrics, his presence was an outlier. Subtle, steady, and deeply attentive. At first, the team didn't know where to place him. Some mistook his silence for inexperience. Others thought he was still adjusting. But it didn't take long before patterns emerged. Caleb was the one who caught bugs in code no one else saw. He spotted bottlenecks in the workflow before they became visible on charts. His insights weren't loud, but they were sharp. Razor sharp. In meetings, he didn't interrupt. He waited. And when he spoke, it was never to take credit or outshine. It was to illuminate a blind spot or redirect attention to a problem no one else had thought through. People started turning to him, not because he demanded authority, but because he earned it. Rachel noticed it too. She had built her leadership style around urgency, fast decisions, fast turnarounds, fast growth. Caleb, however, slowed things down just enough to make the space for better judgment. He asked questions that were in the reports. Questions like, what happens if this scales too fast? Or, have we thought about the people this feature might exclude? It wasn't just his technical acumen. It was his emotional intelligence. He could read a room without dominating it. He remembered people's names. He knew when someone was struggling and offered help without making it a production. Over time, he became the quiet center of gravity within the team. Others adjusted around his calm instead of competing with his presence. And Rachel, someone who had spent years in male-dominated executive rooms sharpening her armor, found herself letting her guard down around him. Not because she had to, but because Caleb's calm made it safe to be real. This wasn't a promotion story. It was a transformation. And the irony? The man who had once been overlooked by HR algorithms was now the person shaping the company's future from within. It was late afternoon, the golden hour casting warm light across the marble floor of the Donovan Tower Café. The same place where months earlier Rachel had stood, card declined, ego bruised, wondering how a woman with everything could feel so powerless in line for a latte. Now she was here again, but this time, the air was different. Rachel wasn't rushing between meetings. She wasn't checking her phone. She was present. And across from her sat Caleb, no longer in uniform, no longer in the background. The cafe was quieter than usual, a gentle hum of conversation, the hiss of the espresso machine. She watched him sip his drink, thoughtful as always, while she turned something over in her hand, a small keycard in a white envelope. Simple. Understated. "This is for the Innovation Lab," she said, sliding it across the table. "We've been testing new AI prototypes there. I want you to lead it." Caleb looked at the card, then at her. "I thought I already was." "You were," she smiled. "But now it's official. And it comes with a team, budget, autonomy." He took the envelope slowly, not like someone grasping an opportunity, but like someone respecting the weight of it. Rachel continued, her voice quieter now. "You didn't just help this company. You changed me. I was so busy managing optics, strategy, momentum, I forgot what leadership feels like when it's grounded in people." For a moment, Caleb didn't respond. He just nodded, a quiet kind of gratitude. And then he said, "Funny how things work. I bought you a coffee. You gave me a future." She laughed. "You're wrong." He raised an eyebrow. "I didn't give you anything," she said. "You earned it the moment you stepped up for someone who didn't even know your name." It wasn't a romantic confession. It wasn't a dramatic turning point. It was real. A conversation between two people who had grown, not just professionally, but personally. Through quiet gestures, difficult choices, and unexpected trust. That was the moment it all tied together. Not because of promotions or titles, but because they both recognized something in each other that had nothing to do with status, and everything to do with character. Rachel didn't realize it at first, but Caleb's presence began to change the culture of her company. Not through sweeping policy changes or flashy leadership seminars. No, it happened subtly. In the way her team started asking more questions instead of pretending to know the answers. In how younger employees felt safer bringing up quiet ideas, ones that didn't scream for attention but held genuine value. The office, once charged with a high-stakes energy that left little room for error, started to breathe a little easier. Caleb's influence wasn't loud, but it was foundational. He introduced systems that prioritized collaboration over competition. He encouraged peer code reviews, not as audits, but as conversations. Rachel watched as departments that had never meaningfully interacted began to align. Silos broke down. Meetings got shorter, but more impactful. And for the first time in years, Rachel heard laughter in the break rooms that wasn't laced with exhaustion. More than just reshaping workflows, Caleb humanized leadership. He brought his full story into the room, not just the polished pieces, but the parts scarred by grief and sacrifice. And instead of that being seen as weakness, it was embraced. Other employees started sharing their own stories, some about burnout, others about caretaking or second chances. The company slowly evolved into a place where resumes didn't just define people, character did. What made it powerful wasn't just that Caleb had risen from a security post to a lead position, it was that he remained unchanged in the best way. Still humble, still listening, still showing up early, making sure the interns' heads had chairs at the meeting table, and remembering to ask how someone's mom was doing after a surgery. Kindness wasn't his strategy, it was his instinct. And Rachel? She began leading differently too. She didn't just host meetings, she started having one-on-one check-ins, not to critique, but to ask, "How are you really?" Her calendar didn't get less busy, but her presence got deeper. The pressure to prove herself faded, replaced by a commitment to grow with her people, not just above them. Caleb hadn't just helped launch a new tech division, he had sparked a cultural shift. A legacy not written in quarterly reports, but in the small moments, the ones that don't show up on performance metrics, yet shape the soul of a company. If this story moved you, take a second to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that quiet kindness changes lives.